Good afternoon. Let's call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District. It's 2 p.m. on March 3, 2026. If you would please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Mr. Clerk.
Vice President Mateo,
Here.
Director Keelhold,
Here.
Director Longville,
Here.
Director Velasquez,
Here.
and President Harrison.
Here.
We have a quorum. The board is present.
Thank you, sir. Next is our public comment opportunity. Are there any members of the public that wish to address the board regarding on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board? Each speaker is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Mr. Clerk, do we have anyone who?
Mr. President, I did receive a request to speak from Mr. Matthew Beeston. Sir, the mic is yours. You have 3 minutes.
Is this online?
Good afternoon. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you so much for your time and the ability to give comment. My name is Matthew Beeston. I am a representative of the Carpenters Union. My comment today is regarding Sites Reservoir. On January 16th, Barnard Construction was awarded a $1 million contract for pre-construction services. Barnard has a history of cost overruns and project delays. Multiple awarding bodies have also selected Barnard for projects, only to award the projects later to other contractors. Barnard has no ties to the local community or its workforce. Governor Newsom submitted a letter to the Sites Authority Board in January preceding the contract award, expressing his concerns. The California Water Commission has required site staff to appear at their last 2 meetings to provide project updates due to their concerns. These recent events have compelled state elected officials to submit letters to Santa Clara Valley Water District expressing their concerns with Barnard pertaining to the Anderson Dam project. Zone 7 Water District recently reduced their stake in the site's reservoir by 50%, citing that since 2023, their capital costs have doubled due to the estimated cost of sites is currently at $7.5 billion, and that's in 2024 dollars. Funding for the project has not been finalized. The water right permit has not been attained. As stated by Vice Chair of the Sites Board, Jeff Sutton, every month sites is delayed costs $20 million. We are all concerned about rate increases. Reach out to your site's representative and reach out to the carpenters so that we can be a resource and we can save the site's reservoir together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other comments from any other individuals?
Mr. President, I have not received any requests to speak to the public that's present online and in person. If you wish to provide a public comment, please raise your hand to be recognized. Nothing seen, sir.
All right, thank you. Then we'll move ahead to our agenda. Item number 2. Our consent calendar, items 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. Minutes of January 20, February 3, and the minutes of the special meeting of February 10. What is your pleasure?
Move consent. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk?
Director Keelhold,
Yes.
Director Velasquez,
Yes.
Director Longville, Vice President Boteo,
Yes.
and President Harrison.
Yes,
The motion carries. The consent calendar is approved.
thank you, sir. We will move ahead with our discussion and possible action items, which we have none today. Next, we have reports, and we'll start with our State Water Project report. Mr. Plinsky?
Yes. Thank you, President Harrison and members of the board. I'm happy to provide a state water project update for January and February. So a lot's been happening, so I will try and summarize the updates on state water project, on sites, and on Delta Conveyance. So on the state water project, the Table A allocation remains at 30%. And I was on a call earlier this week that the storms that came in over the past couple months, or the past month, have been a lot warmer, and so it hasn't built the snowpack as anticipated. So as DWR runs their model, they're kind of holding it at 30%, and they're saying that additional precipitation is going to need to come in March for that allocation to go up. So I am hoping that it remains winter and doesn't start slipping into spring. But as we felt over the past couple of weeks, it's starting to get a little warm. So, but that's where we're going to sit on the state water project for now, again, unless additional precipitation occurs. Now, this is kind of counterintuitive that how the allocation is not going up, but with all the rainfall and all the water in the rivers, there's a chance that San Luis could actually begin to spill. It doesn't physically spill, but we lose carryover out of San Luis. Last year's water gets displaced by this year's water crop. And so as you can see by the figure that I'm going to show you next, San Luis is full within the DWR, within the state water project portion, and the Bureau, the reclamation portion, is also starting to fill very fast. So they're thinking by the end of March, beginning of April, San Luis could begin to spill. When that occurs, the flip side of that is they also start making Article 21 water available, which is water that doesn't go against your Table A, but you have to take it right then and there. Otherwise, it's going to go out under the Golden Gate Bridge. So we're starting to gear up. We're starting to prepare to be ready to take Article 21 water should that scenario occur. Currently at the 30% allocation, we're going to be only able to fulfill about 70% of the direct deliveries that we received from our retailers. That said, if Article 21 water becomes available, we will continue to make direct deliveries and fulfill recharge orders with that additional water. So fingers crossed ultimately that it's wet and that the allocation goes up so we can fulfill all of our direct delivery orders this year. And then another source of water, I have been talking with the general manager for Clawa, and they have about 3,000 acre feet available that potentially we could transfer, do a deal with Clawa. So that could be additional water resources for the valley and for our retail agencies. We just need to get through the month of March and San Luis Reservoir, make sure that it's not going to spill before we enter into that agreement with Clawa. So hopefully it rains. If not, we do have an alternative water source that will be able to bring in a little bit more water. Here's the figure I was talking about. It really has two parts of the figure. The lower portion is in dark blue. That is the state water project portion of San Luis Reservoir. It's about 1 million acre feet. And you can see we are bumping up against that line here at end of February. The Bureau's portion goes up to the second dashed red line. And you can see that, combined water is to about 1.7 million acre feet within San Luis. And then the total capacity of the reservoir is 2 million. So there's about 300,000 acre feet of water or open space available in the reservoir. But again, that can change really quickly. And so if that occurs, again, we could start spilling out of San Luis. I wanted to continue to provide an update that San Bernardino Valley and San Gabriel Valley continue to work with DWR to add chemical treatment to Devil Canyon in the first after bay to reduce or eliminate the golden mussels within the Devil Canyon Azusa pipeline. They did produce a kind of a design report. We were able to comment and get our comments back to DWR about a week ago. And so they should start moving into the design and start ordering equipment. So we're again hoping that this treatment could be in place by summertime. Additionally, San Marino Valley has joined a Golden Mussels working group with DWR and other state water contractors throughout the state to really learn from each other. What's working, what's not working, and what's kind of the cost of treatment, so we can all kind of dial in our mussel treatment. As you know, this is an issue statewide. Another thing I wanted to talk about was kind of the efforts from the state water contractors, specifically their kind of legislative activity. You're going to get a full report from Kelly on Thursday and from our consultants. But just want to share what I am hearing the state water contractors are really advocating for and trying to support certain bills that are being proposed up in Sacramento. So five that I want to highlight. So one would be a bill that would establish a policy for cost allocation of electrical transmission and distribution costs. Why that's so important is that the State Water Project uses about 3% of the energy from the California, throughout all of California. So if these costs go up significantly, we will be bearing those costs, being such a high energy user on the California grid. But this expansion might be related to data centers or might be related to other projects. And what this bill the proposed bill would say is that those entities that are benefiting need to pay for those improvements, that it shouldn't be spread statewide. And so we're behind that. State water contractors are behind that, and we're going to see if we can't push that bill through the legislative session. Another one is a request for funding for both Delta levee repairs and conveyance repairs. Conveyance repairs really is subsidence. So we're looking for $300 million a year for 20 years. That would equate to about $6 billion. That would help, again, repair levees within the Delta and cover the majority of the subsidence costs that we have on the aqueduct. I do want to share that if funding from the state is not secured, at the end of the day, the state water contractors would be responsible for some or most of those costs. There's another bill that's being proposed that would request an extension of time for the State Water Project water rights. This is very important to us. This is to do with the original water right from the 1960s, and basically we still need more time to protect our full right. And so we would support legislation if it was proposed and moving through the House. There's also a bill being proposed that discusses diversion of flood flows, primarily during kind of flood conditions, that they can be diverted for groundwater recharge. Overall, we are supportive of that bill, but we just want to make sure that there's considerations for previous water rights. So they can divert water, they just can't do it in a vacuum or with no consideration for downstream impacts. So Jennifer and her team are advocating very strong to make sure additional kind of protective language gets into any bill that moves forward. And then the last one is it would be a request for validation action through the legislation that would allow DWR to bond for state water project improvements like the DCP. And so they're going through the court system right now, but they're also thinking there might be a legislation avenue to help move that forward. I can pause if there's any questions on State Water Project, or I can move into sites.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Can you go back to the slide on St. Louis Reservoir?
Yes.
So you said that right now we're at 30% allocation. And currently we're at, we could, at that allocation, we could do 70% of our requests,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. And last year we did 40% allocation. We were able to satisfy all our requests.
50% allocation. Yep.
Okay. Well, but yeah, I understand that was the final, but
Yeah.
at 40, we could do
Yes.
what was requested,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So my question is, and I know Sayer's going to do host the retailers to find out what they're going to be requesting. And when is that coming up, sir?
That's in April. We were trying to get in March, but just due to schedules, it'll be early April.
Okay, great. So, and from their history, they over request,
Yes,
correct?
that
So
is
we should be okay.
Yeah, they've been taking about 85%. So there might be just a little bit where we can't satisfy, but yes, some agencies really do go over. And then part of that 85% includes recharge, which doesn't necessarily have to happen if we don't have the water.
And then finally, on the rain, actually, it may not rain in Southern California, but we rely on the snowpack, correct?
That's right.
In Northern California.
Yep.
Cool.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Michael. If you go to the state water contractors slide. Yeah. Do you know the cost that our district will have to pay if the bill doesn't go through for subsidence and the levee repairs?
question.
Yes. North of,
Approximately.
north of $100 million.
Thank you.
Yes. Between the two.
Through the chair. So Heather, can you opine for us that's our rainy day fund in terms of our reserve, and that's why we can sleep at night.
Yes, we have, every time Michael comes back from Sacramento, every month, he brings us another list of things that we know we're going to have to pay for in the next 10 or so years.
Maybe we shouldn't send him to Sacramento.
Okay.
Subsidence is about 100 million. There's also another line item that DWR is planning for FERC relicensing of the state water project facilities. That is another $1.8 billion price tag that is coming down the road towards us. And then, of course, just maintenance of the existing facilities that we have already built. Plus, we know, you can see actually from the San Luis Reservoir chart and this report that the conditions that we've been saying lead us to need both the upgraded Delta Conveyance project, but also Sites Reservoir water supplies are for this very reason, that the modeling for the future is saying that we are likely to going to have higher temperatures, which means there will be less snowpack, there will be more rain events. So it is likely and predicted that we will have more years like this going into the future than our historic conditions, which were mostly snowpack melting slowly. And so all of those things to say that we know that we need to find additional water supply in years like this. We know that we need to save for that very substantial $6 billion subsidence cost. We know we have to pay for the FERC relicensing and many, many other projects. So the capital improvement program that DWR has given us is very substantial. And that is why we've been very focused on saving for our investments that we know we need to make in the State Water Project. That said, I like to say that the State Water Project is a house that we, are very close to paying off in the next 10 years or so, and that we need to invest in being able to live within that house forever. And so we want to make sure that we're prepared to make those improvements as needed over the coming years and decades, so that that investment that our forefathers made, doesn't go to waste.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Michael, do you know how frequently we're billed by the state for the electrical transmission?
Monthly,
Monthly.
there's a variable
Thank you.
charge on our bill.
Any other questions? Carry on.
Okay, so switching to the Sites Reservoir project, I brought to you last month about Sites Project Authority was considering applying for a Prop 1 grant. They have submitted the Prop 1 grant funding through the California Water Commission, requesting another 200 or 300 million. And so if they are successful with that, that ultimately will help reduce the overall cost of the project. The Sites Project Authority is also entering into negotiations for their 5th parcel of land. If successful, they would own about 2,500 acres of land out of the 16,000 needed for the project. So they'd be up to about 16% of land acquisition if this deal goes through. And then lastly, I wanted to, actually there's more, but another thing I wanted to highlight is the Sites Project Authority will be soliciting a request for qualifications for the conveyance construction manager at CMAR. You may recall at the end of last year, WIN went through a whole process with the CMAR. That was for the reservoirs and for the roadways. This is now a second package that will be for the conveyance, the pipelines in and the pipelines out. And then also we're going to have hydroelectric facilities. And so all of that high voltage power lines and the booster stations to lift the water into Sites Reservoir. So if you recall, all the water is coming down the Sacramento River. We boost it up into the valley, and then we gravity flow out back to the Sacramento River. And so this package, this CMAR package, is going to be for the pipelines, pump stations, and electrical conveyance. This CMAR is estimated at about $2 billion. And the figure to the right kind of shows the sequence here. In April of 2026, Sites plans to issue a request for qualifications. In May of 26, they should be receiving the statement of qualifications, or they will be due. In June, July, the selection committee will review the SOQs and develop a short list. Then an RFP will go out, and then later in the year, the proposals will be due, and there will be interviews. And then at the tail end of 2026, early 2027, there would be a selection and negotiation award of the contract. As you know, WIN did sit on the CMAR for the reservoir and roads, and WIN was also volunteered to be on the CMAR for the conveyance panel. So it'll be Metropolitan, WIN representing San Bernardino Valley, and there'll be two other participants that sit on that panel, along with the site staff and others. So that will be the selection panel for the conveyance CMAR. Additionally, as I've been showing you on some of the timelines, that Sites Reservoir, right after we hopefully get the water rights in, before summer, it's full steam ahead, and they're really anticipating that we'll go to investor commitment later this year. One of the things, many things, site is going to have to pull all together before we can really have an investor commitment is these list of agreements. And I just want to highlight three of them for you. The first one is the facility use agreements with GCID and TCCA. This is how we will be able to fill and release water from the reservoir. So absolutely critical that we get that. We know what the terms are when we bring the full project back for this board's consideration. Going down to the B&O agreement, this will be our agreement. This is what this board and all the other home boards will be considering. This will be our contract with the Sites Authority. And then lastly, I just want to highlight the DWR Reclamation and Sites Operations Agreement. And this is going to be the agreement between Sites and DWR, so we can hand off that water within the Sacramento River. So we're going to call for 10,000 acre feet to be released out of Sites. They're going to move it through all these conveyance facilities. It's going to end up in the Sacramento River. But at that point, we need DWR to take ownership of that water and then move it through the existing infrastructure. So DWR Reclamation and Sites is working on this operations agreement that will define all of those terms.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Including the cost of conveyance. correct?
Including the cost of conveyance.
As you recall, I don't know if you recall, but I recall that when we were in Sacramento and there was a report on Sites update, that was the main question that Metropolitan had. They're like, how much are you going to charge me to bring that water?
Yes. Yes. So that will be defined in this facility use agreement. We're also going to talk about water loss and where meters are located and all that type of stuff.
So can you just real quickly, can you help me to understand? So just that particular issue, are we negotiating with them and saying, no, we're not going to pay that much, or that's not fair? Are those things that happen?
So we are, we have empowered or work with the Sites Project Authority. So Jerry Brown and his team, JP Robinette and others,
Okay.
they are our lead negotiators.
Okay.
They're in the room, they're doing the negotiation. They bring back draft agreements and talk to us in closed session and other things, and they get guidance from the entire reservoir board, and then they go back and negotiate again and come back. And so it's an iterative process. And then ultimately we have requested that we're going to see these final or draft final agreements about 10 days or so before they come back to the reservoir board for consideration, just in case we want to add any additional comments. So we are not in the room, staff is not in the room, but our agents are, who's Jerry Brown and JP
Okay.
Robinette.
Thank you.
And then the last topic is the Delta Conveyance Project. It's moving forward. It's kind of one step forward, two steps back at times. And so last Friday, there was a Delta Stewardship Council hearing where they were considering DWR's determination of consistency with the Delta plan. San Bernardino Valley, among many other state water contractors, either submitted letters or presented at the Delta Stewardship Council hearing. And so there was many people in support, and there was also many people not in support. And so the Stewardship Council is taking all that into consideration. And I think in the next month or two, they'll make this determination whether they think the DCP is consistent with the Delta plan. And hopefully that is what holds up and is found to be true. If not, DWR will have to modify some of their documents. Also wanted to just report back that there's a change appointed diversion water rights hearing, as we all know, that is going on. That's going to go on through 2026 and probably into early 2027. And then the last one I wanted to point out is there is a new effort, kind of a new push on the Delta Conveyance Project. And this has to do with the JEPA, Joint Exercise Power Agreement. And so they have put together a small working group to have 7 meetings over the next 6 months. And what this is doing is really negotiations between the DCA, Delta Conveyance Authority, and DWR on who gets the final say on change orders, who gets the final say on design, who gets the final, what is that working relationship? Because as you remember, we're stood up the DCA to really represent our interests. But at the end of the day, DWR is going to own and operate. So DWR wants to have a say, we want to have a say. And so through this JEPA agreement, we're going to set kind of the rules of engagement, potentially for the next 20 years of construction. So I am going to sit on this working group and participate, obviously for San Bernardino Valley, but also for the state water contractors at large. There's probably about 6 of us that are going to sit on this small working group to negotiate with DWR. And that is my update on the state water project.
Thank you, Michael. Are there other questions, comments? No?
The Delta Conveyance Project, 3 of the shafts are in red. Is that specifically identify or determine how they're different from the others, or?
So the larger circles, so the Twin Cities TBM and the Lower Roberts TBM, those are going to be launch sites. So they're going to be bigger.
Okay.
That's where they're going to put the tunnel boring machine down hole, and they're going to start going one direction, north or south. And then they're going to put the other one down the hole and then launch it.
Okay.
The ones in red are reception sites.
Okay.
And what that's going to do is 2 things. One is as they're boring, they're going to make sure that they're still on alignment, but also it's going to give them a place should they have to repair the TBM. So you might need to repair the cutting blades. You might have to do some repairs. So this is just another kind of access point within the project to facilitate drilling. Also, these shafts will remain in the final design and final construction. They're going to be left as access shafts. So they're going to work as 2 things. One is, again, access if they ever need to go down and repair the tunnel for any reason. These will be different access points. The other thing is they're actually going to be surge risers. So if you can imagine, water's going to be traveling 45 miles, and when they turn off valves or turn off the pumps, you're going to get a hydraulic wave. It's going to go back and forth. And so these tunnels are going to be allowed to kind of raise and fall, raise and fall, raise and fall. So it's kind of a surge arrestor as well. So they serve multiple functions.
Yes, sir.
President. Heather, I'm gonna ask you this question. So I'm in Sites Project 110%, both feet. I think it's amazing. But what is in your mind, I mean, just, are you paying attention to the too big to fail phase of this project? I mean, I would hate for us to get to a point where we're dealing with the state agency to convey this water and they're like, well, you guys are already in. This is what you're gonna have to pay. And all these costs was originally, when I first joined the board, it was $4 billion, not 7. It could be upwards of 11. So we have a fiduciary responsibility to our ratepayers to really pay attention to what this is gonna cost. And I don't want to get to a point where, because we've been there on some of the projects since I've been here, that, well, we've already committed, it's too big to fail. Are you paying attention to that for us?
Yes, absolutely. That's actually a conversation we will have when we get this B&O agreement done, when we have a good understanding of the price per acre foot. And that's really what it's going to come down to, is what is the price per acre foot and what is your alternative supply in a dry year? We will be looking at, alternatives such as just going out on the open market for whatever water is available. You could be comparing it to additional investment in recycled water upgrades, which is one of the most expensive sources of water that you can find. Some agencies like Metropolitan, for instance, will be comparing it to either their recycled water project in Los Angeles or potentially desalination, that they could do trades with other water agencies. So what it's going to come down to is each home board is going to have to decide, is this a good value for us as a water supply in dry years? And it is going to be expensive. Honestly, we've become, especially San Bernardino Valley, because stormwater capture is manageable for us, we have become accustomed to what I would consider cheap water in the hundreds of dollars per acre foot. These water sources, especially dry year yield, will be in the thousands of dollars per acre foot. You have to figure out, is that worth it? And do you have any alternatives? I would advocate, I don't anticipate this changing, that Sites Reservoir is going to be one of our best chances to capture wet year water to use in dry years. There's probably never going to be another reservoir like this built in California. Maybe there's a valley out there somewhere that hasn't been identified. Maybe there's a project that got kicked into the back corner because it seemed infeasible at a different time. But it's going to be very challenging to find another water project that offers the same benefits of Sites Reservoir, does not have the fish blockage issues that others do, that collectively we can co-fund it together. Again, the key is dry year water. What is that worth? I think we talked last meeting about on the open market during the last substantial drought, water was being sold for the $2,000 to $3,000 an acre foot, and that's if you can find it. So I don't think there's going to be a better investment out there in at least probably our careers. As you know, Sites Reservoir is a 1.5 million acre foot storage project that skims water off of the top of the largest storms events, places it into the reservoir, delivers it into dry years. That's a very unique model that is hard to replicate. I think, as I told the board, I have recently been appointed to the advisory commission for the SB 72 implementation, California Water for All bill. There will be 35 of us in the state trying to figure out what are the different projects that are possible to do this kind of thing. Again, I go back to the future modeling shows we are going to have more years like this year than not. And so Sites Reservoir is the perfect project to try to take advantage of those really wet rain events. And so all that to say, yes, we're paying attention. You have not signed on the dotted line in a way that you cannot change your mind. We will have the final numbers at some point during this year, probably. Always keep in mind that because these projects take so long, when you originally give the number in 2024, 2020, 2017, it's in that year's dollars. So although, it seems like costs are exploding, a lot of this is just the time value of money. And like we've heard, every single year that we delay on these projects, they just get more expensive. And finally, I will say that it's important for everyone in California to keep in mind, water projects will never be easier to build than right now, and they will never be cheaper than right now. It will always be more expensive in the future. And so we have a big charge to figure out what can be built and what is affordable and what will make the difference between abundance and scarcity in the future for the state of California.
Thank you.
And just add a couple things to that. So one is when we are comparing sites water dollar per acre foot to other water, another thing that you'll hear from me in the coming up is that we're also getting storage along with that pure dollar per acre foot. So we're getting new water rights off of sites, but we're also getting the storage capacity. So I don't know if just comparing acre foot to acre foot is a true comparison. So I will share that aspect as we're talking through the numbers. But everything Heather said is absolutely right. The other thing I would say is, and she said it, but is that we have not committed except for our planning costs until we sign the B&O. And that B&O decision, hopefully later this year, that will be when we really are committing. But even with that, there's going to be one, and I'll go through this in the future, but there's also going to be one more check-in point because right now we're at a 30% design. We have not accessed every site. We haven't done all the geotech boring. And so there's some assumptions in that 30% design. So between 2026 investor commitment, all of 27 will be the design. They'll get up to 100% design, and then they're going to do a final cost estimate. At that point, collectively, we can decide, should we pull the plug or should we continue? So there's going to be one more check-in point even after investor commitment, should the costs somehow get unwieldy.
And then finally, at that point, they may add other investments.
Yes, if people start backing out, other
Right.
people may be
Got it.
interested.
People on the waiting list.
On the waiting list.
There is 20 some agencies on the waiting list.
Got it.
The other thing we'll talk about when we get into dollar per acre foot too is that, this water 7-year construction project, so 28 going into 2035. We have to compare what's a water supply going to cost in 2035 compared to site's water, because at that point we'll have a fixed mortgage or we have paid cash on it and all the rest. Met right now, untreated is at 1,100, going up to 1,400. That's now. So when you start talking about 2035, just state water project may be cresting $2,000, and just the time value of money, right? I mean, what are we paying for gas and what are we paying for milk in 2035? It won't be today's prices. So that's the other thing we have to take into consideration. Although it may look expensive as compared to 2026, this water will be available in 2035 and for another 75 years. So we're talking about 2,100 water. And so at that point, the unit cost will look very attractive in the
Thank you.
future.
Any other questions, comments? Michael, you did a great job. Thank you for giving us a very thorough understanding of where we are with all of this.
You're very welcome.
And we appreciate it, and keep it up for us in Sacramento, please.
Will do.
Thank you. All right, we'll move ahead with our director's reports. Paul, could you start that for us?
Sure. Yesterday, I attended the board meeting of the San Gorgonio Pass Water Agency. They had a couple of presentations from USGS staff who had done an electronic resonance frequency. They were looking for faults using electricity. And they seem to have found another fault in an area where they were considering recharge. So they might not consider recharge there any longer. The other study or other work that USGS did for them was the installation of monitoring wells. So they completed some of those wells. They're the kind that we had done, the cluster wells, so that they can take measurements from various depths at each location. Other than that, it was pretty routine.
At all?
That's it.
Okay. Okay.
All right, Mr. President. Since our last board meeting, I attended the Upper SAR WIFIA meeting on the 18th. On the 19th and 20th, I attended the Santa Ana River Science and Conservation Symposium, which was a great event hosted by us at Esri. So I was very happy to attend that. On the 19th, I also attended the City of Fontana State of the City. It's an amazing event as well, hosted by Mayor Warren. On the 23rd, I attended the ASB CSD dinner hosted by Conservation District in Redlands. And on the 24th, I attended the Metropolitan Finance Workshop where they spoke about the biennial budget and also their state water project costs and their subsidence costs. And they're very concerned the same things that Michael just let the board know. And that ends my report.
Thank you. Appreciate it. The non-Valley District meetings that I attended, I think is just, yes, because all of my meetings were district meetings except for the dinner on the 23rd for the special districts, San Bernardino County Special Districts. That's all I have. Gil.
Mr. President, since our last meeting on the 18th of February, I also attended the WIFIA. I know it's our meeting, and congratulations to our president. He was reelected chair. That was a good thing. And this also is our thing, but I just wanted to give a shout out to everyone who was involved, our staff that was involved with the Santa Ana River Symposium over at the SRI. It was amazing. And I know it's seamless, but I know it's a lot of planning and a lot of work to pull that off. And everyone seemed really, really excited. I was telling Jose that I ran into Kai, and he's usually pretty reserved. He was so happy, and it just warmed my heart. I'd never seen that side of him.
Yeah.
But he was in his element, so that was a nice thing. And then on the 23rd, I went to special districts. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you. Yes, on the 19th at our symposium, it was a special treat to hear so much from Joanna, who is just a jewel that we have, and for her to actually open up and talk about her history and how she got here and so forth. It was fascinating and showed even more how valuable she is to us. Susan.
Since our last meeting on the 17th, I attended on YouTube the City of San Bernardino City Council meeting on the 18th. And also, I haven't missed any of the science symposiums, and this one, like all of them, they have a lot of new research coming forward. You can see where new information will become available, hopefully. I went to the special districts dinner, and then on the 25th and 26th, two back-to-back webinars, one on the Little Hoover Commission, and they're looking at the electricity use of data centers. The best, statewide analysis on statewide, where, just what those electricity costs are now and what they're anticipated for in the future. And then on the 26th, something I've been waiting for, and this was what was on my mind when you requested that we come back to the board at some point and brief the board on water use, is the UC Berkeley Center for Water, Energy, and the Environment has been examining this on the knowledge of a data center water use. And so that has an abundance of new information in it. UC Berkeley Center for Water, Energy, and the Environment. And then on the 28th, I did go over to Valley College to hear Senator Eloise Reyes present her State of the District address when she was sworn in. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Next is our general counsel report.
No report today, Mr. President.
You take up so much of our time.
Exactly. Thank you.
All right. Are there any ad hoc and standing committee reports from anyone? No? All right. Then the SAPA meeting report. There was one today.
Yes, we had a SAPA meeting today, March 3rd, 2026, our regular meeting of the commission at 9:30 this morning. And these are the highlights. The commission approved resolution 2026-2 that certifies the completion of phase 3 of the Water Energy Community Action Network, We Can project through the City of Riverside's Eastside Climate Collaborative Grant Program. One of the things, the takeaways from that is it's getting going out into the community and to underserved or hard to serve neighborhoods and getting them to get rid of their turf and put drought resistant plants. And it's incredible the before and after. So hopefully they're going to continue the project. I think it's just incredible. And then the commission participated in the strategic planning kickoff workshop facilitated by the Catalyst Group, during which it provided informed perspectives and substantive insights regarding SAPA's strategic plan objectives, planning process, and timeline. So as you recall, Valley District, we went through a similar process a few years back, and it really is your guiding light, if I may. It's your compass, your guardrails, when you have a really strategic plan that everyone buys into and participated in creating. And I think it has served us well. So I think I said today is really a reset for SAPA, and we're beginning the process. I want to thank Heather for being there today. She always has a wealth of contributions that make sense and that really help us to do some good work. So thank you, Heather, for being there. I appreciate it. And also Milford. So that's it, sir.
Thank you. Also, now we have, are there any future business? Anyone have any requests? All right, seeing none. We have our announcements. Mr. Clerk, would you like to make any statements about the announcements?
Yes, Mr. President and members of the board, highlighting our announcements for the month of March. We will be seeing the board back here next Thursday for the policy workshop, followed by Tuesday for the engineering workshop. Now, highlighting this month, I'm highlighting the Foundation Summit that's scheduled to take place next Thursday here at San Marino Valley. That will be an all-day event. And currently, we're tracking roughly around 40 personnel attending. Pending any questions from the board, that's all we have. My apologies, people, not personnel. It's a military term.
What was that?
I said personnel and I was told it's people.
I see. Okay. All right. Well, we do have a closed session today. Mr. Counsel, would you take us into that meeting?
Yes, we'll be going into closed session today for conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation under paragraph 2 of subdivision D of the government code 54956.9. One potential case.
Thank you very much. We will return after our closed session with comments by our legal counsel. Go ahead.
Mr. President, there was no reportable action from today's closed session.
No reportable action. Thank you, counsel. There being no further business before this board, we are adjourned.
Bye, everyone.